Hello and welcome to Women of Worth Wednesday. I am Ganel-Lyn, the host of Women of Worth Wednesday here on High Five Live, and I'm so grateful to be with you today. I'm grateful for the opportunity to share a message with you this week. Sometimes I have guests on, sometimes I'm interviewing our guests, but I always love it when we get to gather together here on High Five Live and connect all over the world. If you're watching this live, if you're watching it on YouTube or Facebook later on, I'm happy to connect with you then as well. I am hoping you're getting a little intrigued or interested just based on the title of this message, that you'll stay tuned in and share this message with someone. I had the great opportunity to grow up in Northern California. And it was a very diverse high school. It was a very diverse area for me to grow up in. It was such a blessing for me. The church is strong there, but when I was in high school, it was still at a time where the church was growing, and we would travel a couple of hours south to go to Oakland, to go to the temple, to do baptisms. And I felt really blessed to have this wonderful experience. If any of my high school friends are tuning in to this special Women of Worth Wednesday, just know that I love you and keep you in my heart always. I think one of the great blessings of being in a community where there's diversity of religions, of race, of cultures, is that we're exposed to different values and beliefs and customs. And for that, we become more like Zion. Well, a few years ago, if you were tuning into General Conference, you heard an announcement that there was a temple that would be built in the Yuba City area, and that is where I grew up. The Yuba City area is also known as the Yuba Sutter area. It's north of Sacramento. It's south of Chico. And because there's a temple in Sacramento, all of our friends and members of the church in the area of Yuba City, Gridley, Wheatland area really believed that if there was ever another temple close to Yuba City, it would probably be in the Chico area. Never did we think there would be an announcement in conference that we would have a temple in Yuba City. So there was great rejoicing and tears and excitement and emotion, like there is with all temples, but this was special. This is the place I went to junior high and high school, where I grew up, where I developed my testimony, where I received my patriarchal blessing. It's where I went to dance festivals and stake dances. It's where my sisters are buried. It's where I have wonderful friends and memories. It's where heartbreak happened and hurt happened, and where I learned about so many different people, and it enriched my growing up experience to grow up there. Fun fact, I went to BYU, Idaho, which was formerly known as Rick's College. I had a wonderful family home evening brother that was just my friend, and we eventually became more than that and got engaged. We were engaged after knowing each other for a year as friends, but I had never asked him where he was born because he had grown up in Oregon. I just didn't think he had been anywhere else. And he said, I actually was born in Yuba City, California, which I thought was hilarious. So my husband, Rob, if you're familiar with my family, actually was born in the city where I grew up. He eventually moved after a few years of his family living there, and they spent the rest of their time in the Oregon area, in the Eugene, Springfield, Florence area. But another fun connection with the Yuba City area. So after the announcement of the temple, just like every time there's an announcement of the temple, there's all these guessing games of where will the temple be and when is it going to start and all of those things. It was soon revealed that the temple would be where the Stake Center is now located. And on that land, there's a wonderful, beautiful history of how that land was acquired by the church, and the Stake Center was built. And we had, back in the day, this huge, baseball field where we had sports programs. And so the temple was announced, and so plans were made to tear down the Stake Center so that it could be rebuilt on the same land, but that the temple would be in the location where now the Stake Center was. And so there's been this anticipation, and my high school friends that live near this site have communicated with me about the updates, because I don't live there. I live in Utah now. And so as they made plans to take the Stake Center down, there was a call out to the community for resources to be shared from the Stake Center. And there will be a link in the comments after this broadcast from the church news site where they did a beautiful report about what I'm to share with you today. But I wanted to share it from my perspective as well. So the doors were dismantled and shared with like Habitat for Humanity. The benches in the chapel were shared. Everything that could be repurposed was donated to other churches and community centers and organizations that could repurpose it. But what really touched my heart was a story about the little cement bench that's out front. The oldest Black church in California now has that bench from the Stake Center. And the pastor of that church expressed such gratitude. She said, maybe this seems like a simple thing, but for our church, it's not. The story that touched me the most, though, was about a new community church that had started. The pastor of this community church said he woke up one morning and he turned to his wife and he said, make a list of everything that we need God to provide for us. And so she did. She made a list of salt and pepper shakers, of water pitchers, of folding chairs. He said within a few hours, they had gotten word that the Yuba City Stake Center was available for what they needed. And could they use water pitchers and salt and pepper shakers and folding chairs? He said, not only did we get these great folding chairs, we got the carts that they sit on to store. And I had a flood of memories of all the times that we set up for stake conferences or other meetings and then took those chairs down and then folded them back up. Maybe you've had similar experiences. My heart was overwhelmed as I watched this beautiful example of interfaith, of community, of the opportunity we have to share of what we have. So I titled the message today, organ pipes and salt and pepper shakers and water pitchers. And I love the idea that there's a piece of this stake center that has now gone out into the community to support other organizations and churches. What's beautiful also is the land that the stake center was built on was acquired by a family that were Sikhs, and they are so grateful for the relationship they've had over the last 40 years with the church. And now they're excited to see a temple being built in that area. The response and support from the community has been overwhelming. And recently, a member of the stake presidency, who was also the bishop when my sister passed and died by suicide, he was the bishop to my parents, and he was a bishop of our home ward. He's now in the stake presidency, and he and his family came out. They couldn't save the pipe organ of the Yuba City Stake Center. It's old. It costs a lot of money to maintain. And he explained to me that as they took this pipe organ apart, there were millions and millions of wires connecting with this organ. And so they dismantled these pieces of the pipe organ. And he shared and brought out for me one of these pipes. And so now I have, this is the middle C. I'm going to even play it for you. Isn't that awesome? I also shared a pipe from the organ with my mom, and it was symbolic of all the years she sang and led the music in that stake. And then also with my mother-in-law, because that's where my husband was born. And so it's a fun connection. I love the idea that a pipe organ is all of these individual pipes, right? And these individual sounds that come together to make this beautiful music. And I believe that we, each of us, have a pipe we can share, a note, a tone, a contribution to building the kingdom. I love that God is mindful of all of his children, no matter their religion, their race, their culture, where they live. And right now, at the time of this taping, we just got news yesterday of the explosion in Beirut, and my prayers go out to our brothers and sisters that live in that area of the world. What I love about this beautiful community of High Five Live is that it's global. I see people watching right now live from the area of Kenya and from California and from Utah and from different areas in the country and the world. And I believe that that is the beginning of how we can build Zion. Maybe you have some salt and pepper shakers that you can share. Maybe there's someone praying for something that you have that's extra that you can share. At the start of this pandemic, I realized that we had an abundance of paper towels and they were scarce in our area. And so I went on Facebook group and offered our extra paper towels to share. And so for a few days, I kept putting bags of paper towels out on my front porch, and strangers would come and pick them up. And then I also was the recipient because we were short of butter and some other supplies, and others posted on the same group and had something to share. I'm going to invite all of us to build the kingdom today, just where we're at. We don't maybe have the resources to travel across the world and build an orphanage or start a school. We may not be in a position where we can start a scholarship or solve the problems of the people that we love, but we all have a pipe organ, something that is our note that can, with other notes, build Zion together right now. And maybe we don't have something that we can give away. Maybe we have something that we need. Maybe today the prayer in your heart to God is, just like that pastor's wife, a list of the needs that you have. I testify that God is mindful, that he loves our specific prayers. So ask him boldly for what you need, and then open up your heart and your hands to receive. I love that we have opportunities to build the kingdom with other faiths. And if you don't live in an area where there's a lot of members of the church, I hope that you see that as a blessing and as a gift, because it can be lonely at times to feel like you want to be with members of your faith that you can share common experiences with. But during this global pandemic, I think it's such an opportunity for us to gather in any corner of the world that we're in and share our faith, even if our doctrine and our policies are different. Maybe our practices and traditions are different, but we have much that is the same. And so my message today is to ask God where you have some salt and pepper shakers to share, but also ask God where you need some water pitchers or folding chairs. And remember that he is ready to come when we're ready to have Zion. And so I know that as we work together and we navigate the vulnerability that we're all experiencing at different levels right now, that we can create Zion together. And that's my prayer here. And I know it's our why at High Five Live, especially here at Women of Worth Wednesday. I love this gathering, and I love the diversity of friends that have connected with this program for the last few years. And I send my love to each of you. Share your note today, wherever that is. And we'll see you again next week on Women of Worth Wednesday.